Here. Very informed. All right, let's move on to our Port Executive Director, David.
So you have my submitted report. I won't read it to you. But there are a few things that were not included in the report that I just want to add and highlight. Chairman and I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to meet with the leadership of Customs and Border Protection for the Jacksonville District at their office here at the port. Obviously, they have certain requirements that we as the port need to comply with in order for them to provide services at the port. And as you well know, those requests for upgrades both to their physical location as well as their IT infrastructure have been made several times, and they've kind of been somewhat patient with us as we go through these transitions, but they really want a plan going forward. So the immediate requirement is for them to be able to upgrade their IT system in their offices. And the way it works is they basically provide us with an estimated budget. We sign an agreement saying we will pay whatever that cost is. They go out, they bid it, they install it, they buy the equipment, and then they send us a bill. And then there's an annual maintenance upkeep for that. The estimate they provided us was $56,000 and change for the equipment, and between $10,000 and $11,000 a year for annual maintenance. We committed to them that we would, by beginning of September, let them know whether we are prepared to execute that agreement. So we don't have to do anything tonight, but we will on the 24th perhaps ask you all to take a vote to support that. We do have grant funds that are available from a previous FSTA grant that has not been utilized. And in conversation I had with both DOT and Florida Ports Council, they think this would be an appropriate use for it. I'll get that in writing and reconfirm it, but there's about 24,000 remaining in that grant, which will leave a balance of 32,000. We would look to the operator to cover that cost, as well as the annual operating costs. And so we're in that conversation with the operator regarding that. Regarding the long-term plan of what we're going to do with their office building, they understand that that's a key component of our master plan, and we're just not there yet, but we've given them a number of options that we're at least looking at, and they're fine with that as long as we, in good faith, move forward with the IT piece of this. So we look forward to doing that. I probably should have said this first. Yesterday, the chairman, Patrick, and I had the opportunity to sit down with the Savage leadership. And we spent, as Patrick indicated earlier, a good couple of hours reviewing the operating agreement, reviewing the master plan, reviewing our charter, and all and putting on the table a lot of these issues. It was very good conversation. I think it was a lot of information conveyed over a short amount of time, but the key open house about a week and a half ago at the city hall. We had over 70 or 80 people attend, and got a lot of feedback from the community. I don't think any of it was surprising to us, but it was good to hear directly from them and for us to let them know that what they shared with us will be addressed as we go forward with the master plan. So I thought it was a very, very good meeting, and Butch was there also representing Savage, which I thought was also very good. There is an upcoming job fair that the transportation logistics community is putting together along with the USO. It'll be October 20th from 10 to 2 at the Bay Meadows Holiday Inn. And as I understand, Savage has agreed to buy a table and display and try to provide information on opportunities here at the port. I'll attend as well and share whatever I can, assist in any way. So reaching out to the community that way, and just continue to be busy setting up meetings and meeting with more folks, including landowners. And we had a good meeting. Butch and I had a good meeting with the Jack's USA folks to talk about opportunities. We also did a tour with Commissioner Cole out at Crawford Diamond with the JEA folks. So it's been a busy month, but a lot of things to do. So if anybody has any questions, there is one item that normally would come under new business or existing business on our agenda, and please forgive us as we kind of go through these changes administratively, how we're going to run these meetings, but we're trying to bring a little more structure, and Rosanna and I are figuring it all out together. So there is an item where we've had a past due invoice with the Florida Ports Council for their administrative fees. I've shared with the operator those fees that they're responsible for the grants that they took down. But there is an outstanding fee associated with the master plan, which we had originally intended for the operator to fund, and they would have paid, but since we're paying for that 100%, it's probably more appropriate that OPA pay that fee. And it's roughly $2,000. So we'll need, I guess, some approval to pay that fee.
The 2,000 on dock warehouse, right?
No, it's for the master plan. The on-dock warehouse is the $9,600.
Okay, so they just don't line up.
Yes, yeah. It's confusing. The invoice.
With 2,000, not just 2,000, but it is 2,000.
And I think what we've done in the past is take it out of reimbursement or whatever, but how's that pay?
Can that come back out of ARPA funds?
So obviously,
We
no,
can
we cannot get it reimbursed from ARPA, but we can use ARPA funds to pay for it,
pay when we get the ARPA funds back.
just like we can pay for the master plan.
I'll make a motion that we can do. I'll second the motion. Motion made and seconded to pay the Port Master Plan bill to the Florida Port Council. Any further discussion?
That's the $2,665.
Yeah.
2,065.
That 2,000, that looks like 26.
No, 2,065.
Yeah.
You just say $600.
Hey, I put them on back there.
All right, any
Okay.
motion, like I said, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
And lastly, if you might, I just want to say it's been right out a couple of months now, and you guys probably already know because you've had an opportunity much longer than I have, but working with Rosanna has been a true blessing, and she is a great resource for the organization. I just want to thank her for
Thank you.
all the efforts that she put forward.
I'd like to say something about David. David has hit the ground running. I want to tell you that he is working every day doing something. He's always busy. He did take a little vacation. Not criticize him for that, because everybody should have a vacation, but even on his vacation, he was able to communicate and did. And I just want to say, David, thank you for the hard work you put in already. And I think we made a great choice, and it's something we've needed for a long time, and hopefully we can figure out some way to keep paying you at the end of this. So,
I hope so. Thank you.
okay,
So just comment, so like contract. We're set goals. Last month, this month.
Say again now?
So I believe that's per David's contract annually. We're supposed to, you guys are supposed to set goals for him
Okay,
so that we can measure his set goals for the next year, right? So essentially that was done as we enter so his employment contract, I think states that, we're going to develop goals annually in July, August timeframe. As I said, as we enter the new fiscal year, so that he and you are all have the same set of goals in mind of what's to be achieved in the next essentially 12 months.
okay,
So
so
just
if you will send Rosanna, not me, send Rosanna some ideas about goals for David, what you think he should be accomplishing in the next year. We'll put them together and talk about them next week. All right,
Next meeting or workshop?
at the workshop. Well, it's not workshop, the regular meeting, but
if I can remember.
Yeah, yeah.
So when is Rosanna's annual review? Isn't it coming up?
So Rosanna doesn't have any goals and there's no per se annual review. So you can give her goals for sure. Obviously Patrick, my contract and Rosanna's usually in October, either September or October, the engagement letter for the next year gets signed or agreed upon. So it's annual during the fiscal year.
I think we talked about like a 360 type concept where she could provide feedback on things that would make it easier for her, facilitate her job, proposals for change for next year. So it's not really,
That
it's not
may be
supposed
a
to
long
be
list.
thing, but something that's more provide input. And then I would think, do you want to provide input on your goals too before we come up with ideas?
Of course he does.
And I'll tell you that, Rosanna and I have already begun having those types of conversations about how to do things a little better and more efficient and really better for the commission in terms of how we provide information. So as we go forward, the information that's provided to you in advance of the meetings, hopefully we organize a little differently and maybe a little more thoroughly. So we're kind of figuring that out as we go.
You all both do an awesome job. And I love the reports that you're generating before the meeting. It's really great.
And I want to say too, Pierre, you're underpaid. I'm telling you, what you do for us, we don't pay you enough. I hope in the future we can. We can remedy that hopefully in the future and just hang in there with us for a little while longer. I think we can do something.
Well, I'll just say, obviously, the grant reimbursement, because obviously we're talking about another grant here. Question is who's to do that? So I've taken on the Florida Courts Council and the master plan and the ARPA reimbursements. So obviously, but that was done,
Yeah,
that's extra.
we'll try to get some compensation for that, but maybe we can get that in the budget somewhere. All right. Anything else for David? All right, Butch, you want to give us a report?
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. It's nice to play it. First of all, I'd like to introduce my wife, Cassidy.
Oh, okay.
Come with us tonight. She's the one that makes me do what I do. And then I'd also like Matt Nelson to stand up and introduce himself and let you know his role in what we do and what he does.
My name is Matt Nelson. I'm in our Savages Operational Readiness Department. And so I provide a lot of support across our operations right now, which is my biggest focus, and to make sure that he and we are successful as possible. In particular, I focus a lot on operations as they start up, and also as we come back from hurricanes and things like that. So my life, and particularly this time of year, as you all well know here, is glued to the weather station and then some special reports that I get. So in short, my job is to help our operations be ready, particularly as we start up. And we'll hold things like weekly meetings every Thursday afternoon, 4:30 to 5. We have an Army folks in Salt Lake that get on a meeting and meet with Butch, and that's to make sure that Butch gets all the support that he wants or needs. and to coordinate. So when I talk about functional support, I'm talking about payroll, accounting, AR, AP, safety, human resources, benefits, procurement, kind of across the board to make sure that those heads of departments are there, so that anything that we need can be gotten. And also that those folks need from us. So I coordinate those efforts, and you can sum it up as the helper. My job is to make sure Coach gets everything he wants.
So you're living here?
No, sir. I work out of our Salt Lake office.
Oh.
It's a little easier to rent the troops when I
Okay.
bounce on the desks.
All right, very good.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, welcome to both of you. Come back anytime.
I plan on
Good.
it. Thank you very much.
All right, July tonnages. We were down July from June. As you can see, pretty much all the way across the board, tonnage wise, and that's mainly due to ebbs and flows of the shipping business.
Yeah.
Ray and our fine team out at the terminal have already unloaded a couple this month and set 2 of them to sell today safely. So that was a good deal. I would project to see a nicer August than what July was. We did have 42 dock each day, 7 port calls. We handled 157 rail cars and averaged 48 trucks per day. Our numbers for 2022 are up substantially from 21, all the way across the board for an average of about 18% from higher than 2021. With what I met with many of the customers, and many of the customers are expecting more throughput. I would expect that we keep on that. Any questions on Tony?
Any questions? Yeah.
But first, thanks for getting this to us earlier than at the meeting.
Yeah.
Hopeful. The dockage days, is that increase, some or all that attributable to the Everstar being caught up for, or is that included in those days?
It would be included, so it should, if I recognize this right, it should be every day that a single ship to the dock accounts for dockage day.
So we've made changes to the tariff. We've added labor thing as a separate line item. Have you, did you go through and identify what changes we might want to have in our
The budget.
monthly report?
Well,
Or
so in the budget, you saw some additional revenue items, right? So one was for the harbor port administrative fee, which is tied to the vessel port calls. And then there's the cruise revenue, and we have at least one call that's coming up. So that's already reflected. The one thing that we don't have enough to sit down with Butch and his folks to figure out how we monitor it is on the bunkering. Right, we added a bunkering fee, a flowage fee for the vessels that are receiving bunkering. And we've talked about this at the meeting yesterday about putting together a registration process for those companies so that we make sure that they're properly licensed and insured, but also a way of tracking the volume that they are providing. So whether that shows up on this report or not, I'm not sure whether that's something we want to track or not, but I think this kind of gives us a pretty good snapshot.
When we can elaborate if we need to, make sense, absolutely.
Thank you so much for taking this early.
Oh,
I think I said this before the meeting.
You
but
did.
We
Thank
haven't had an early tonnage report, I think, in probably 4 years. An early meeting anytime before the meeting.
There's low hanging fruit. I do need to report to the board that we did have an incident in the port. I don't know if all of you were aware. We had one of our team members for staffing and been at the port for about a year. The gentleman had, from what I understand, he had a loaded container with a yard jockey truck, made a corner too quick and the entire unit went on its side. It was unfortunate. We was actually, I was holding my first staff meeting with all the managers up in the blue room, and that happened right in front of our eyes, 4 minutes into that meeting. I would like to report, we successfully finished that meeting Monday with no incident. which was good. The team member did get banged up a little bit. We took him because we respond rapidly with an injury like that. So we take the scene, we actually got out ahead of the staffing agency, got scolded a little bit before they even responded to us and, you know, to let us know that we've made them aware, we already had the team member claimed. So he was administered, excuse me, injection ibuprofen muscle relaxer, because he did have some pain on the side. So he was treated well. Will not be back at the port, and he is no longer with the staffing agency for other reasons.
Was it drug test?
That's the reason he will not be back at the port and will not be with the staffing agency anymore.
Thank you, Butch. Any questions for Butch? Any other discussion?
All right.
Thank you, Butch. Appreciate it. All right, next up is the unfinished business, the security contract. What do we need to do with that?
So at the last meeting, we approved entering into a contract with the security contractor.
Right.
And since that time, they provided us with a contract. It's been reviewed by legal counsel and myself. And it was attached as part of your package, and we're recommending that we accept that contract and execute the agreement.
Well, didn't we do that last meeting?
No, all we did last meeting was approve them as the contractor. We did not approve the actual contract itself.
You approved Allied as the responsive and winning bidder and authorized David to negotiate a contract. So that's what this is.
Okay,
And the contract is consistent with what the proposal.
what their proposal was, yeah.
So,
All right, motion please.
I'll make a motion to go forward with the contract.
Motion been made. And seconded to move forward with Allied's contract. Any discussion?
I had a question, the version, it might not be the version, the latest version, but the one that's attached is effective July 17th. Is that right? Or is it post-dated to cover?
I highlighted the date as something that needed to be, to be addressed, whether it needs to be post dated so there's no disruption in service or what, I don't know, but I always highlight the date, but there may be a purpose behind that. I don't.
I mean, to me, it would be effective with our approval of the
Right,
contract,
tonight.
Right,
and that they would be operating under their existing contract until
right.
tonight.
So we'll make that date when the chairman signs it based on this motion and the board's vote.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. All right. Any,
Rosanna, when he signs it, just mark the date and have an initial. The date.
today's date? Yeah. All right, new business, Sure Clean contract. David, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So, as you know, we're responsible for maintaining the customs house, including maintenance and janitorial services. There was a contractor that was hired late last year. We ran into some performance issues that just kind of got worse over the last month or so. Customs put us on notice that they had not been there in several weeks and were not doing the job. And so we reached out to Ms. Williams with Pure Clean 2, who was, as I understand it, employed by the cleaning company once removed.
Yeah.
And had come to us as a recommendation from Customs. Apparently, when she was with the previous company, she just did a really good job for them, and they did they highly recommended that we reach out to her, so at the chairman's request, I did so. She was available and willing to continue to provide that service at the same terms and conditions that the previous contractor was operating under. We terminated the previous contractor and entered into sort of a week-by-week contract until we get this contract to you for approval. So this is an annual, actually it's a month-to-month contract, but for a year at the rate that we were paying before.
Same rate, yeah. So
So we recommend approval.
How come I wasn't told about this here?
how come you weren't told
Yeah,
about,
Huh?
about,
About the other thing, people leaving and this new one coming on board. I mean, Custom House is my. And I mean, this, I found out about it the other day when I went to the Custom House, you know.
well, I know,
I
he
mean,
usually calls.
if you can discuss it with him, he
Yeah,
should be
I
able to
should.
call me or she should be able to
You're
call me.
You're right. I apologize for that.
I mean, that happened the time before, last week, you hired one before we even knew about it.
And that was my oversight. Commissioner, and I apologize for that.
Okay,
All right. On this contract, and again, I was called by Joanna, Rosanna. They need trash liners and paper products and toilet tissues and stuff. Now. And the whole time that I've had the Customs House for 12 years, almost 12 years. We've never provided this to my knowledge. Either I always thought the cleaning people provided all that stuff,
no,
you know. Who's been
they,
providing?
they buy it, but they charge us for it.
We've never paid for it, but I don't know.
I think we have.
I never remember. And have you seen any receipts where we paid for any of those, Anna?
It was paid by the operator. The
So
cleaning
that
service was paid by the
Hope
operator.
was never paid for it.
Well, that's
The
what,
operator is paid for it. And according to the operating agreement, they're supposed to do that.
okay, well. That's something else we have.
Happy to have a discussion.
So, okay, the operator will be the one is paying for all of that,
Yes.
all of this contract.
Yes. They're responsible for the operation and maintenance of our facility.
Say that again,
They're responsible for the maintenance of our facilities. The operating agreement.
all right.
Motion and second, please.
Are we approving these
Let's-
contingent upon the operator's reimbursement? I mean, are they gonna agree or
See.
we're taking the position they've already agreed?
Yeah,
Well-
well, positions that were already agreed based on the operating agreement.
But we just have to discuss it with them and make sure, and if they decide not to pay it, I mean, we're gonna have to pay it until we can come to some conclusion. I mean, we can't just let it go. Customs House says it's gotta be there. I mean, we gotta,
Well, same
Either-
for security, right? Security was reimbursed by the operator
yeah,
previously.
and still will. So, yeah, that's something we're still in talks about. There's just so much that, we're working on it all, believe me.
Well, I just had a question, and I've raised this with David about why US Customs is listed as the customer.
That's not gonna help.
We amended that.
It's been done.
That was changed.
See, it's up here now.
Okay,
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Yeah, I caught that and I said, no, that's not right.
okay, and then they also listed something for the vehicles. Did we?
That was just an optional service that if customers wanted it, they could,
But they
they would have
pay.
to do it.
Okay,
And it's not something that's far as I know they requested. like,
Right.
Just their standard contract.
as long as it is clear, which I didn't see this in the four corners, as long as it's clear within the contract, maybe we need some, change in language.
Alright.
It just says the additional charge is paid by, it's not paid by us, it would be invoiced separately,
It was says available upon request that additional charge.
but not billed to us.
No,
So I would just propose to strike that because we're not paying
It's,
for it.
it's not a term, it's not a charge, it's an
Right.
available upon request, just an additional service that they are part of this contract. The janitorial service is listed as 225. The other is upon request.
The other's a direct service to customs, not to OPA.
The strip and refinish is an available upon request and an additional charge is not included as a charge in this contract.
What are they stripping and we finish?
They're not.
Nothing, they're not.
But
It's
but it's a vet, no.
No.
I don't think so.
Floors.
It says auto scrub.
Well, that was a.
Yeah, that's a different,
That's a different service. When
you're paying for the weekly janitorial service at $225 a week.
This company offers additional services. If we decide we want it, we'll go back to them and ask for it. And we'll bring it here and talk to you about it, but, the only thing they're doing is the cleaning part up top.
But
Yeah,
we can write it in decline if that, makes you feel better, but I
Only
don't.
because we're the customer, we don't have any vehicles. We don't have,
It's not, it's just,
about auto scrub with a.
But it's not the vehicle, they don't clean the vehicle.
Profit cleaner you talking about?
Scrubber, floor scrubber.
Auto scrub.
Yeah,
I think we've spent enough time.
yeah, there too. Do I hear a motion in a second?
I make a motion, carry forward.
Second,
Second.
motion is second to approve the service with Pure Clean 2. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. All right.
So I have a question.
Uh-oh.
She submitted a first invoice and I processed it. So
Meaning you paid it.
not yet, it's pending your signature, the
Okay.
check. So do you want me to forward it to,
Let's talk to the operator about it, and if he doesn't want to pay it right now until we have further discussions, we'll have to go ahead and pay it.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right, let's go to committee reports. There's nothing, I think Butch just talked about some security issues, so we'll move on from that. FDOT, no further word from FDOT. We have a meeting set up for the 15th. Okay, any further on the Customs House, Commissioner Frank?
I went by that other day and checked it and everything is good. The air conditioning is doing good and, me and Pierre talked about the light bill for the last 12 years and all, and they have got
Yeah.
a couple of $100 more.
Yeah, I think those windows are gonna help.
Uh, the windows just got there, but.
I know, but I think the windows will help us.
The windows will make a difference, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And, but when things go on over there, I'd like to know about it. I mean, if you want to take care of it, be happy to turn it over to you. You know,
Well, you got it at least until the end of your term.
okay, but let me know when something goes
Will do.
on. That way,
You got that, David?
I did,
All
I
right.
apologize.
All right. And the Customs House looking good. They've done all the work they were supposed to do. I think they've got some touch up and stuff they need to do. The windows are in, look good, so they're happy right now if we can get the IT stuff.
on the IT stuff, we've never paid for no IT
They've
stuff.
never upgraded it since we've been.
Yes, they have too. Yes. Well,
I think it was during the time we had a contract, a different contract with them when they were paying us.
when I first came on board,
That,
they
that we had a contract with them.
Customs has changed their requirements where they don't pay for anything anymore. They don't pay rent, they don't pay utilities, they don't pay for their facilities.
And we talked about all that IT stuff with them and because we knew we could get it at a cheaper rate, cheaper price. But they said because of the security issue and it being what it is, they have to go through the federal government to do it and they have to purchase it from certain vendors and those vendors make it secure for them. In other words, it can't be hacked. So that's what costs more. So something we just have to deal with. Army Corps of Engineers, I discussed that last meeting. They haven't started they've started their work, but they haven't gotten any word from them yet on that. Commissioner Cole, Economic Development.
Nothing new to report. We'll be having a partnership thing coming up. I'll keep y'all posted on that.
All right. Emergency management.
Nothing on emergency management, except that the sheriff's office did have their ribbon cutting for their new facility on it. Sand Hill and, the gunner ran, the gunner ran, so very nice, yeah, very nice.
They should have meetings coming up for hurricane.
Yes, yeah, there's actually nothing set, but,
Yeah.
ready when they are.
TCC, Commissioner Hannah.
Nothing really to report this month, it was quiet, we just went over some old stuff.
TPO,
Didn't have anything last month, but I will be attending the meeting tomorrow.
I'll try to get them.
Nassau Chamber and City of Fundy. Commissioner Hannah.
So I met with, I'll take the city of Bermuda, for 2000.
Okay,
So I met with, the city manager and Tammy Bach twice this past month. And, they have had very positive experiences with the new operator. I also heard that the turnout at the city, city hall event was really well attended. The reception was very positive, so it was good, good conversation. We didn't discuss any pending litigation, so we kept it friendly. But it's a good partnership that continues. And they provided me a copy of the 13 Ways to Destroy Your Community, which is Manager Martin's current
over here.
agenda for the city improvement plan. And I highly recommend this book. It's engaging to read, but it's also very instructive just from a community perspective of like job creation, which are, these are all initiatives that we share on a larger scale, but I think there are applications to the support.
It's called 13 ways to.
13, they call it 13 ways, but if you just Google that 13 ways to destroy. It's a short one. So I'm not full all the way through it. And I do have an item that under the other items also.
All right, Nassau Chamber.
I don't have anything. for-
Okay, nothing there.
Great.
Well, I reported that last meeting.
Yeah, you
I
did, yeah.
Yeah, we graduated.
Yeah, new class starting too.
Yeah.
I want to say something about the city meeting, or not city meeting, the meeting, the master plan meeting we had at the city hall. I thought it was very positive, a lot of good comments in there. We allowed them to write any comments they might have had, and they put them in a box, and we got a list of them, and some of them were very positive, some of them were not so positive. Some of them had comments that we know we're not going to do, but it was a concern to the community, and we will answer all of those before it's over with.
Was there a written comment about birds?
Yes. Yes.
I heard the same. I heard the
Yeah.
same comment about the birds. They're concerned about rookeries.
Yeah, I'm not sure if those are rookeries or not, but that's something we'll talk about. Okay. Administrative officer banner report. You got anything, Rosanna?
My report is in the packet, nothing additional. However, I do have a question on Nassau Chamber of Commerce. I received a membership renewal for $300 instead of the $280 on the budget.
That should go in the budget then for next year.
This is for next year, yes.
Yeah.
2022,
Make sure
2023
you
membership.
Get that here so we can put the new rate in the budget.
Okay, so do I have permission to go ahead and process it?
No, not yet. Not that we approve it in the budget.
Okay,
All right, any other item? Is that it?
that's it.
Any
For me.
other items to be brought before the commission?
So just that, the $300 fee is, so we haven't paid the fee yet. With the invoice.
For last year?
Order. So they follow a different year than we do. So their bill invoice comes out in July. So we're paying now for the next 12 months.
Right.
Okay, so the next bill won't come out until August of next year.
So this
So the
bill.
280
Has pays for from July this year to July next year.
Right, and we haven't spent the money in the budget yet.
Oh, yeah?
This says dues from October 1st, 2022 to September 30th, 2023. It
So
says
is that-
here.
So-
I don't know.
Discrepancy there.
Well, we haven't spent the money in the budget. So 280 is in the budget unspent,
280, so.
is in this year's budget.
This is-
$20 more.
300.
I'd entertain a motion to put
Do we have a-
$20
do we have a
with that
pass-through?
and go ahead and pay it.
Agree.
Need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
To amend the budget.
Yeah, we'll put $20 in the budget.
Okay,
We're doing the budget amendment.
that's right.
I make a motion to put $20 for the pay bill.
Second. Motion been made and second to put $20 with that payment and go ahead and get it done for another year. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, very good.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I do have something.
Right, from Rosanna, anything else?
Nothing.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, anything other from other commissioners?
I do have one item.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we received this afternoon an email from our attorney summarizing a position of the operator, and I want to paraphrase for the Operators Council regarding notice. And do you mind, Patrick, this?
Well, it's not my email, it's their email. So I didn't summarize anything. I just forwarded what Savage Services in-house counsel's position is on specific to section 11.8 of the operating agreement, which contemplates OPA receiving notice of a acquisition of Nassau terminals. I'm scrolling to it, the internet is terrible. So I forwarded that to all of you, and essentially their position, and you know, I don't like summarizing what other attorneys say, because what he says is worth what he says.
Who is he?
This is Ben Bates,
So Ben, yeah, Ben.
Benjamin Bates, was the Deputy General Counsel at Savage. So essentially their position, I'm going to be brief, if you have the email, is that they did not purchase Nassau terminals. They purchased
I see.
Worldwide Terminals for Indiana, which owns all of the equity of Nassau terminals, among other things. And so their interpretation of section 11.8 is that it wasn't applicable because they did not purchase Nassau terminals. Commissioner Hill has raised an issue with that. She did before. She also has pointed out some language in the bond indenture that requires notice. And I've received some of this information as I was just getting in the car this evening, so I haven't looked at it all. But some entity of Nassau / Worldwide did provide notice, and there's some copies of those. Again, I haven't looked at them. So if that's their position. If there's a question or discussion, I'm happy to participate.
So the question I wanted to raise is that if you go to the Emma filing website, which is the publicly available bond filings that Worldwide Terminals for Indiana did direct their notice entity to provide notice pursuant to the requirements of the bond indenture to Emma. And under the bond indenture, which I quoted at last month's meeting or 2 weeks ago, that page 78 of the bond document does say that if the trustee receives notice, that we should receive notice. And so I looked at the notice they provided and it references an agreement which requires OPA to have the opportunity to consent. I provided a copy of this document, which is also on his website, to Patrick, and asked him to take a look. He did not want to take any, additional time to take a look unless the board wanted to understand this a little bit better at our next meeting. I think we should at least understand what our opportunity to consent should entail. And the documents or the description that's in this document says that our notice would specify the price and other terms and conditions thereof in reasonable detail, and providing supporting evidence in reasonable detail that following such change of control, the new proposed operator will have the financial and operational resources and reputation as are necessary to carry out Nassau Terminals obligations under the operating agreement. And then it goes further that there's a 60-day period upon which there's 10 days to respond, and a 60-day period upon which to present another competing offer, which I'm not really sure what that means, but I would like to at least have this board consider whether we want to receive at minimum the information that we deem satisfactory, which is what the language says. We can decide whether it's satisfactory to meet these requirements. So do we want Patrick to at least take a look and review these documents and consider whether we want to request this?
And if we do request, what do you hope to gain from this? I think what I'm trying to say.
Well, we found out at our last meeting that the operating agreement was sold, basically, so many words. And so this to me is the due diligence that has not been done, the process that has not been observed, which we don't really know. You know, it's a little bit of daylight on the transaction that I think we owe the public, those who elected us, to understand what that daylight should have been.
Okay, should have been, but what do you propose to gain from that's what I'm at?
I think that we should be able to understand to a sufficient degree the new operator's ability to perform. And I think that we need to understand, enough about the deal that we can say whether or not we consent. And to make that an official decision of this board. I think we're accountable to the public as much as we're accountable to bondholders.
That was a decision made between the owner, Worldwide Commerce. And or whatever, that was a business decision made between them. The contract does not say that we have to approve it. They bought all of Worldwide. We don't have to approve it. They don't have to come to us, ask for our approval. And all we've been doing there is just costing us, wasting a lot of legal fees and money and all.
Now,
What we need to do is work with Savage and we with them, work the best we can. Make this work.
Patrick, have you given an opinion as to whether or not that is our legal position?
No, because I haven't gotten direction from this board to do that. So in me looking at it, there's a couple things that I can do. I can spend time trying to validate Ben's summary position of why they didn't or why they don't think 11.8 is applicable, or we can go back to Savage. I think both David and I, and request whether they're willing to provide some documentation that would meet the spirit of this language so that this board has some additional information and some comfort level as to the transaction, or I can take any other direction that the board provides.
What's the pleasure, board?
I agree with Franklin. I think I mean, I'd like for you just to do the normal review with it, but I don't see that you need to get an in-depth study into it. Time is into it. Unless you see something that jumps out and scares you. A lot of extra leaves.
Yeah, I want to be sensitive to that. I will also, as I told Commissioner Hill, I told some of you in the past, I want to be careful taking direction from a single board member as opposed to the board in its entirety, especially then when it's up on a bill. So that, my debate is, do I dig in and roll my sleeves up and try to verify the position of Savage that 11.8 and frankly, some of the bond language isn't applicable because they didn't buy Nassau Terminals. They bought Worldwide Terminals. Or do we go to Savage and say, we'd like a little daylight on this transaction. We'd like to see your financials or your capabilities or whatever it is you all decide. And certainly have a conversation with Ben. He's been very clear that his phone, because he's in Salt Lake, his phone is open to me. I can reach out to him, but I want to make sure I understand what this board wants me to do regarding this issue.
You're from our executive director, David.
I think it's largely a legal and policy issue. I want to kick the can a little bit. I see both perspectives in terms of making sure that we do our diligence when we can, that the deal's been done. And we're building a very strong relationship, with Savage. Like I said, we had a very positive meeting yesterday. I've seen Savage in the past and, in other contexts, and I know that they are a pretty substantial organization. I don't understand the legal semantics between Nassau terminals and worldwide terminals and what they actually require and what provisions apply, so I really rely on counsel for that, but.
So maybe the way to go, Commissioner Hill, is to for me to reach out to Ben and talk to him and say, we've received your explanation. We're not interested in trying to unwind this or to create a battle, but we'd like a little more information. We'd like some daylight on this. This is a public board. They've been very receptive to that concept. They understand where they're operating and what the law expects of you all and me, and frankly them. So I'm happy to have that conversation. I just need to know, either how far you want me to go or which dummy you want me to tackle before I get moved.
I just would like some guidance, some legal guidance as to what our options are. So,
Well, I think your options are two. You can, again, we can do work to validate their position that 11.8 and provisions of the bond agreement are inapplicable. And we can start talking about, what a corporation is and what a subsidiary is and what does it really mean, and debate their position and either agree with it or challenge it. Or we can say, we're at a point now where that debate isn't really going to get us anywhere. What we really want is some cooperation with the spirit of the language. We'd like to see more about this transaction and more about you as a business that purchased Worldwide Terminals and what that means for this board. So again, if you want legal advice, I need to know which rabbit hole I'm going down, or is it all of it? It's easy to say we want you to advise us, but I need to know. And we spoke about it, and certainly the chairman just brought it up. What is the objective? When I'm doing something for a client, I need to know what they hope to gain out of it. That helps direct my work and my attention and what issues I'm spotting. So I get your point. I have had conversations with Ben about it. I had a conversation with Ben about it yesterday morning, and I'm happy to further those conversations. That's different than saying we want you to validate their position that these provisions don't apply.
So I think obviously we're $70,000 overdue on legal fees at this point, and so we need to be pragmatic about what we can commit and what the ultimate goal is.
I don't want you to necessarily worry about that. If that becomes an issue, that's an issue. My bigger concern is that this board is clear with me what they want done, because I don't want to be in a position where I'm taking action in a legal sense based on the direction of a single board member. That's inappropriate.
I don't think anyone on this board has anything negative to say about Savage so far. I don't think we really beginning this relationship, so this isn't intended to unwind anything. I don't think we have enough information one way or the other to say whether we want to waive this. But I'm just one of 5. But I would like to have a little bit more information about the transaction. I would like to have a little bit of time to review any documents. I mean, basically, this transaction has occurred without any public involvement. It's public assets, it's tax exempt bonds, and there's a level of detail that we necessarily don't need at the board level. I understand that. There are exemptions, public records laws. I understand that. I think we need, at a bare minimum, enough information to make an executive decision about this change, because those assets are owned by the public. They're owned by OPA. And it's an operating agreement.
Where did you get this information from? The bond documents?
The EMA website, which is all where the financial disclosures are filed for the tax exempt bond, the $30 million worth of convert bonds.
But I'm trying, but the bond documents doesn't say they have to do what you said they needed to do.
It does. Yep, they're on the website.
It does, but like the agreement, it refers to Worldwide Terminals Fernandina LLC. It's not refers,
That's all.
doesn't specifically, I'm sorry, it's the other way around. No,
Yeah.
it refers to Nassau terminals. Worldwide submitted the notice. They actually refer to Worldwide there. I got a quick look at them. They're not that great. It's a form that they just send. It's not a. It's not a elaborate document.
What I'd like to direct you to is just go back to Ben. Because we sat down with him yesterday, with 3 members of Savage and the company, and I thought he had a very good explanation. He went over this in detail, how it was done and why it was done the way it was. But if you want to go and ask him to look at those bond documents and clarify anything in there that might not be copacetic, you understand? And just go right there to the edge of the rabbit hole. Don't jump in the rabbit hole.
I'll have a conversation with them if that's the will of the board.
And then report back to us, and if we think we need to go further than that, then we'll go further. But I don't think there's any need to challenge anything. I don't know where it's gonna get us. Is that okay with the board? Right.
Brandon, do you have anything to add?
I don't, I think it's done, I think, as a business owner, I know when you make a transaction like this, I'm sure their attorney looked into every aspect of everything that had to be done. And I'm sure they looked into every loophole and every contingency plan that needed to be signed, sealed, and delivered. A company that big ain't gonna take chances on a purchase that big. So I feel that their explanation and how we've discussed, I just think that all the steps were taken. I think maybe when we did our original contract, there should be more put in the original contract of us knowing, but that's not their responsibility. That's all back in the past.
What I'm doing.
Right.
Okay.
Vice Chair Cole, do you have anything to?
Them on, her with, Mr. Hannah, we don't need to beat this thing up. Don't need to spend a whole lot more money. So, I direct Patrick to do the same thing, reach out to them and let's get a little clarity on it and we can move forward from there.
I just don't understand what it's gonna get us. If we find they should have notified us, and we should have had some say in it. Is it gonna nullify the whole thing? Is that what you're looking for? Or is it you just gonna make everybody think it's gonna make everybody happy to know that they did something they shouldn't have? We move on from that.
Due diligence is all about just understanding the relationship, understanding the parties, understanding the transaction. So when you have a public transaction, this is public money involved. I mean, we can argue about how accountable we are to the public or how not accountable we are to the public. I tend to take the position that we should be more accountable.
What's public money?
The assets of the ports are all publicly owned
They
assets.
didn't buy anything from the port. They bought the company that's operating. We still own it.
And all the revenues go to the operator.
Right, and then there is the same agreement that was signed years ago to pay it. So from the standpoint of what was agreed upon, it's still the same contract that was agreed upon 5-6 years ago. So nothing-
But if the contract says we have a right to receive at minimum enough information to know whether we want to approve the transaction and an opportunity to. do that as
That's not what our operating agreement says.
But Patrick hasn't given us that opinion. You're expecting the opinion of their counsel.
We're so happy to get rid of Chris. I mean, y'all would let me bother.
I mean, I'm
I
not,
think all
I
we
can
do.
invite any particular
Running up a
personality. I
budget.
just think we should follow the process.
It's not necessary, but I mean, that's up to you.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's up to the whole board.
Well, I say, let's go on with the operating like we got it and keep doing it. Do I need to put that in motion? I haven't.
No, I think what I've directed Patrick to do will not cost us any more. I mean, he's gonna just reach out and tell Ben what we talked about and let him come back to us with any solution he might have or any suggestions he might have, and then Patrick will report to us and we'll move from there. If we think we need to go further, we'll go further.
And we just keep those down.
I'm actually excited. I think for them to come in here and we did take, I just think it's gonna take us in a lot of steps there. But Chris wasn't able to.
We talked a lot yesterday about communication and partnership.
Right.
And I think we're gonna get a lot more of that.
I agree.
With Savage.
I think it's a plus.
Yeah.
In fact, before this board knew about it, Chris brought some people to my office and met with me. Whoever it is, and met with me personally and talked to them. And I think it's a great deal. Like I told them, I said, we'd be happy to get rid of Chris. But I think it's a great deal. They've got the finances, and they,
They got the know-how.
they got the know-how. Absolutely. That's what I said. I think it's a great deal.
All right,
That's plus for us.
Yeah.
So I'm clear, my instructions are, I'm gonna have further discussions with Shannon about the general issue, with sort of their position and concern that
They
or at least
do-
some of it, for the part of it that pertains directly to public assets in this board, we're a little bit concerned that not enough information has been provided, and we'd like to discuss an opportunity to learn more about the entirety of the situation. Is that a good starting place?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
I'll try to remember all that tomorrow.
all right, good. Good. You just got to record it.
Ah.
All right, any other items to be brought by commissioners? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.